Hello everybody! The time has finally arrived to talk about my top 25 films of 2018. And I originally intended to do this earlier, like around the beginning of January like I did last year. But I said no, this time around I'm gonna wait to watch all the films that I'm actually interested in. I'm not gonna say like, I haven't seen this, I haven't seen that, and well, there are still a couple of films that I would have enjoyed to watch. I'm pretty confident in this list. I've seen every single important film, let's say, that came out this year, and honestly it's been a great year, but I have to say pretty much every year has a lot of good films, especially hidden gems that don't get talked about that much. So with this list I tried to do something a little bit balanced. I tried to go with some mainstream picks, but also some more hidden films that I'm hoping you haven't heard about, that I'm hoping you haven't seen, that I hope you watch and you actually enjoy as much as I did. It's gonna be a long one. I need the drink. But still, before we actually begin with the top 25, I have some honorable mentions, films that just didn't make the cut, films that I enjoyed, some more than others, but still. Honorable mentions are Thoroughbreds, Under the Silver Lake, The Guilty, Suspiria, Vox Lux, Green Book, and Leave No Trace. And those are pretty darn fine films that ultimately didn't make the cut. So, let's start. At number 25 we have Paddington 2. And Paddington 2 is just a pleasant film. You know when you're watching a lot of like dramas and complicated, complex films about real issues, real problems? Well, sometimes all you need in life is a simple film like Paddington 2. A film made with care, a film that homages a lot of early cinema, a film that is just a joy to watch. It's fun, it's short, it's lighthearted, and it's made with a lot of care and attention. And it isn't pandering to children, and literally everyone can enjoy it. At number 24 we have At Eternity's Gate, a film that I watched at Venice and later rewatched at home and actually enjoyed even more the second time around. At Eternity's Gate is a beautiful portrayal of Van Gogh's as an artist, not as much, well, as an artist and as a person, both ways, but Willem Dafoe gives one of his finest performances to date. In my opinion, the true Best Actor winner, even though it's not going to be voted by anyone, unfortunately, but it's a wonderful performance. It's a very artistic film, some might say even too artistic for their own tastes, but it's definitely a fascinating portrayal of an artist, of art, and of how art just sometimes isn't made in the right period. Some art truly is avant-garde, truly belongs to people of another time period. So it's a fascinating film and just beautifully made with an incredible soundtrack. Number 23, Night Comes for Us. This is a brutal action extravaganza. 2 hours where over an hour and a half probably is just action. It's an Indonesian film, it's wonderfully choreographed, it has some brutal and truly disturbing violent scenes in this, and it's probably one of the best thrill ride action movies you will probably ever see. It's lean, it's mean, it's gory as fuck, and yeah, just another great Indonesian action flick from Timo Tjahjanto. At number 22 we have Revenge. Probably, as of right now, the best rape and revenge story that I've watched. It's a film that some might call unbelievable, but it's purposefully almost fantastical in some elements. Three men abuse a poor young woman, and she wants to get revenge. They leave her for dead and she pretty much rises, almost literally from the ashes like Phoenix, and she hunts them down. And it's a very almost enclosed thriller. It just has a cast of 4 people, the woman and the 3 men, but it's incredibly tense, it's beautifully shot, one of the most gorgeous films of the year, and it has some truly terrific scenes in this that are just edge of your seat exciting. And it's also one of the most interesting films from a feminist point of view, and how this woman isn't condemned for her behavior, even though some people might call her slutty at first. The actions that these men do are just, you just can't forgive them. You just can't forgive them, and the actual brutality that comes afterwards ends up being pretty satisfying, I'm not gonna lie. At 21 we have an underrated Netflix flick, the one of many in this list, Private Life. And Private Life by Tamara Jenkins it's a truly fascinating film, one that grew on me the more I talked about it with a friend and the more I thought about it. And it's a very, very interesting film with two terrific performances by Paul Giamatti and Catherine Hahn. And this film about a couple trying to conceive a child, being unable to do that for a multitude of reasons, considering adoption, considering renting, let's say, a uterus. It's a very, very, very human, dramatic comedy, leaning more on the drama than the comedy, but it's lighthearted enough not to take this matter in a too heavy way, but it's still a very serious film, and honestly one of the most underseen of the year. I highly recommend you check this out if you haven't already. At number 20, it's American Animals, a pseudo-documentary and drama where you have interviews with some people who, when they were younger, in their 20s, they tried to steal some valuable books from their university library and now sell them. And the film keeps cutting back and forth between the interviews with the actual people and some, let's say, reenactments of what they're telling with actual actors. And it's a fascinating juxtaposition that plays a lot with the concept of memory, of what actually happened. You never know for certain if what they're telling you has actually happened, who is right, who is wrong. They keep contradicting each other. In some ways it reminded me of I, Tonya, but it's a more gripping film, especially because it plays also with the concept of cinema. Like, it shows them thinking about how the ice will go and then you actually see how it goes, and it's incredibly hard to watch and very realistic, and it's a truly fascinating film, and I hope more people try to do this documentary drama mixture, and it's not the only film on the list with this concept. At number 19, Sisters Brothers, a Western drama that I was hoping would get a lot of acclaim after the Venice premiere, but unfortunately it just kind of flew under the radar for some weird reason. But this definitely has one of the best casts of the year. You've got Joaquin Phoenix, John C. Reilly, Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed, and they are fantastic in this film. It's a very slow-moving film, very tender, more character-driven than story-driven. But thanks to the wonderful script, to the terrific direction by Jacques Audiard, and to some really pretty cinematography, you get a very atypical Western, more focused on the changing of times with with the gold rush and the inclusion of technology, of chemistry in it, but also of pretty much, let's say, the consequences of a violent life. Even though they aren't as explored as another film later on in this list, it still tackles those themes in a fascinating and intriguing way. And it's honestly just a pleasant watch, mainly because of the cast, and they all have terrific chemistry with one another. Number 18, Mandy. This is a film that I've watched a couple of times now. The first time around didn't particularly like it. I was just kind of let down because everyone's saying it's a crazy ass film. I watched it, I was like, kinda like it. It was a bit slow in the beginning, but then thinking about it, reading more reviews, analysis of the film, and actually rewatching it knowing what was going to happen, I loved the film. It really, really grew on me throughout the months, and it's honestly not only a beautiful film, but it also has some terrific acting from everyone in the cast, and it manages to walk the line between being incredibly campy and a straightforward B-movie, but also incredibly artistic and almost thought-provoking. And it's definitely a film that is more style than substance, but damn, I love this style. And also, Johan Johansson's score, the last one he will ever compose, unfortunately, a true song. Number 17, we have Widows, a film that was initially higher up on this list, but then I brought it down because I rewatched it. It's not as strong as it was the first time around. I noticed a few of the cracks in the narrative, in some of the pacing, but boy, this is still a damn fine film. Steve McQueen does a great job here, mainly creating a very, very interesting cast of characters. Arguably the best ensemble of the year. With my standout being Elizabeth Debicki, who has been pretty much... She isn't necessarily a newcomer, but she's also in another film on this list. But Her role here was genuinely deserving of a Best Supporting Actress performance. And again, just like the Sisters Brothers, it's more character-driven than story-driven, but you have fantastic acting in this, really fun plot twists that keep on piling up on one another, and it's probably the most enjoyable and accessible film by Steve McQueen. It isn't necessarily the most thought-provoking, even though there are a lot of social elements in this that probably get a little bit muddied in the entire narrative, but I still highly recommend this, even though, as I've said, rewatching it I noticed some of the faults that I originally just ignored, let's say. At number 16, the only animated film on the list, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, a film that I wasn't excited about, I went in pretty cold and ended up really loving, and part of it is due to the animation, which is pretty impressive, very unique with different styles. Part of it is due to the voice cast, part of it is due to the sounds, the music, the visuals, but the main reason why this works is because it's a tight script. Like, every scene matters, every dialogue has a consequence, every moment that's played for laughs is actually really funny, and every dramatic moment actually hits home. It's a pretty emotional film, it's very hard-hitting in some moments, and it's honestly really probably the best superhero film I've seen this year. At number 15, we've got Spike Lee's Black Klansman. Another film that balances the line between comedy and drama, and while I would say it's more of a comedy than a drama, it's a very interesting, really interesting film that some people are starting to say like, well, it tackles some things that are kind of obvious. But I saw it with my family, and for example, the ending, which has become quite controversial. First of all, I really love the ending. How it actually ends, it's like a lot of people know about these things, but around the world, like here in Italy, no one pretty much knew about those riots in Jacksonville and other areas of America. So actually seeing it on film, I remember going out of the theater and many going, did it actually happen? And so yeah, it's one of the most important films, socially speaking. It's also really funny, you got great performances by the entire cast, and the soundtrack, it's one of my favorites of the year, very underrated, and I'm actually thankful that it got nominated for Best Score at the Oscars. At number 14, we've got The Tale. The Tale is a very personal film for writer-director Jennifer Fox. It basically stars herself, played by Laura Dern, and it's probably the most disturbing in some way portrayal of child abuse, because it shows just how much the abuser can warp the mind of its victims, make them feel guilty, like it's their fault, the child's fault. It's a sickening film to watch, and I especially love the whole meta element to it. There are some interviews with the actors playing the real life people that she actually met, where with this film she is able to look back at her life, look back at her choices and their actions, and it's probably one of the most impressive and compelling self-analysis that I've ever seen on film, and it's incredible. Just thinking about it, I'm getting shivers. It's disturbing, it's emotional, and it's quite unique. It isn't like a, oh, poor me film. It's actually very believable, very realistic, and it gets under your skin, definitely. And Laura Dern, absolutely fantastic, one of her finest performances to date. Number 13, Won't You Be My Neighbor? I knew nothing about Mr. Rogers, but boy, this documentary is one of those documentaries that gives you hope again in life. It's about a good person doing a great thing for America, and have some people changed because of him? Absolutely. You see that through the documentary. You see how he changed the kids that were watching him, either live or on TV. You see how he changed the people he worked with. And at the end, yeah, it has an emotional ending. It has an ending that makes you want to cry, but makes you want to cry not out of sadness, but out of pure joy. Pure joy that, yes, sometimes some people are just good. There isn't a second motivation to what they're doing. You can actually just be a good human being, and not doing something for profit, but doing something because it's right. And at number 12 we have another documentary, Minding the Gap. Minding the Gap, it's one of those documentaries that is so personal to the director and to the people he's interviewing that it almost becomes a universal story. A story of some teenagers that become adults that just want to live their house, their lives, but can't. It's about how just nowadays the world is so big yet so small, and you get sucked into some communities and you can try everything you want to escape them, to change the course of your life, but it's incredibly hard. You try to become a better person, but it's not that easy. You try to do good, but end up doing bad. It's a very, very powerful piece of documentary. Something that could have easily been like a cheap homemade video film, but it's actually shot over the course of multiple years. You actually see a newborn baby get older, and you get to know all the people in this documentary. And in the end, you don't really dislike anyone. You don't really dislike anyone. You actually understand everyone's motivations, even if you don't necessarily agree with them. And with a lot of hindsight and retrospective, you actually start looking back at your own life. And that's what is powerful about this documentary. As I've said, it's such a personal story to these three teens that it actually becomes more universal, and a lot of people can relate to it. At number 11, it's Koreeda's a Palme d'Or winning Shoplifters, a film that could have easily been overly sentimental, could have easily been sappy and just like one of those melodramatic family dramas, but no, it's actually a very realistic but also uplifting tale of a family that isn't bound by blood, but it's just bound by love. Barely any one of them is truly connected by blood, but they find each other under very peculiar situations, and they build this family that is just a joy to watch on screen. And again, this is another one of those films that makes you look back at what actually is a family, what makes a family. And a lot of films tackle these themes, but this one tackles it with a lot of earnestness. And it's also about a family of shoplifters, like the title suggests. And it never tries to justify their actions, even though it gives motivation for them, because living conditions are getting shittier and shittier, especially in Japan where it's set. And you just feel for this poor family, even though you want them to just try to have a better life. And it's very touching, it's very moving. The ending is a little bit too long for its own good, but yeah, it's absolutely a great-ass film. And now we get to the number 10 spot, the cream of the cream, the best of the best of 2018 for me. And at number 10 we have Burning, a South Korean drama mystery that is about a mystery that probably isn't a mystery. It's about a disappearance that probably just isn't a disappearance. Is it about a murder? Not necessarily. It's a film that, more than anything else that came out this year, is about life and how much doubt there is in life. How much, if you just want to look at something, you will see it. If you want to believe that someone is doing something bad, you just, like every single freaking clue that you find that might suggest that, you take it as an absolute certainty. And while in this case we have a boy whose girlfriend disappears and he thinks she's been murdered, it qualifies to a lot of aspects of life. Was this girl actually murdered? We don't know. We never find the body, we never find out the actual truth about the mystery. And that's the beauty of this film, that's the power of this film. What is real? What isn't real? We can never be certain in life. And it's incredibly powerful. Number 9, we have Bad Times at the El Royale. A film that a lot of people probably have lower, or probably don't even have on their best films of the year list. But this is, to me, as an aspiring director, as a lover of editing, of cinematography, this was fantastic. This was borderline perfect. It reminded me a lot also of Baby Driver. And Godard does a great job directing this. It has a lot of clever editing, a lot of great attention to detail in the sound, in the performances by the wonderful cast. And honestly, it's one of the most joyful experiences of the year. It's 2 hours and a half long. It has a crescendo of intensity, but also of twists and turns that aren't necessarily the most clever ones, but work in the context of the story. And it probably also has my favorite soundtrack of the year. Fantastic all the songs in this, and it's just wow. Right from the opening scene, where the editing matches the music, absolutely fantastic. At number 8 we have The Rider. Chloe Zhao's weird, again, another one of those like pseudo-documentary, pseudo-dramas where you have real people portraying themselves, and this story was powerful, incredibly powerful. An American boy whose entire life was devoted to riding horses and bulls. He has an accident, and now if he falls once again off a horse, he's gonna die. And it's an incredibly powerful look at just how much do we actually love our dream, how much should we love our dreams, because if something fucked up happens, and as we see from this film, it does happen, what do we do with our lives? Do we just try to keep and pursue our dream, risking to die? Do we start having regrets about our entire life, not even try to do also something else, not trying to study more, not trying to build us a more safe life? It's a very emotional film, probably the most emotional out of all of this, and it really got to me on a personal level. And it's a really fascinating film, and I hope to see more of this director because she did an incredible job here, and the entire cast gives really believable performances. And yeah, I highly recommend this film. At number 7 we have Yorgos Lanthimos' The Favourite, a period piece that makes fun of a lot of period pieces, a comedy that ends up being incredibly tragic and dramatic, a cast that gives it its all. Cinematography that's just weird, peculiar and beautiful to look at, music that gets under your skin, humor that gets more and more dark the longer the film goes on. It's is it Yorgos Lanthimos' best film? It might just be. It might just be. At number 6 we have the best horror film of the year, the most disturbing film of the year, Hereditary. I've seen this already multiple times, and I love the shit out of this. This is the definition of scary for me. It's scary on a deep level, about family, about just how fucked up our heritage can be, and how much mental illness can truly destroy a family, how much doubt and not knowing what our parents were up to just can mess with our minds. But it's also a very disturbing horror film in its own right, with weird cult rituals, with disturbing moments of gore, and especially it's made by someone, Ari Aster, who understands what makes an effective horror film. There are no jump scares, there are no loud noises, things that go bump in the night. It is an incredibly powerful piece of horror cinema, truly disturbing, terrific cinematography, editing, and Toni Collette and Alex Wolff gave 2 of the most perfect performances of this year that were sadly overlooked by a lot of awards, but not in my book. Fantastic performances by everyone. Now to the last 5. These films have just been swapping back and forth, and this one before the other one, I don't know, whatever. This is my list, personal. Those aren't the be-all end-all top 25 films of the year. If you have other films, just tell me in the comments below. But still, the number 5 spot goes to Lynne Ramsey's You Were Never Really Here. A borderline perfect art house film, and a truly fascinating and incredibly deep and powerful look at violence, the consequences of violence, and the consequences of childhood trauma. Joaquin Phoenix gives the best performance in his entire career, and the film is made by someone who understands visual storytelling. Right after the film ended, I wanted to read the book, and actually seeked it out, read it in the same day that I watched the film, and the book basically plays out like a written explanation of the film, and which just shows how much powerful the visual images present in the film were. And It's a very dark film. It's not an action movie. It's not even much of a thriller. It's more of a character drama, character study that is incredibly disturbing at a Taxi Driver level. There is even better maybe than Taxi Driver. Only time will tell, but it definitely gets under your skin, and it's definitely a truly powerful piece of cinema that proves that Lynn Ramsey is one of the best directors working today, even though she doesn't make one film a year. At number 4 we have the most mainstream film on this list, but I don't care, I love it. Mission Impossible Fallout. I'm a sucker for the Mission Impossible films, arguably my favorite action franchise of all time, maybe even franchise of all time, who knows. But boy, it's the stunts, the choreography, the dedication of Tom Cruise to the craft. It's all very impressive, and it's all framed into a story that is very engaging, that moves at a fantastic pace, and it's a great culmination to the entire Mission Impossible saga. And I'm more than interested to see what Christopher McQuarrie does with the next 2 films in the franchise, but still, this is the peak of Mission Impossible films, right now at least. I've already watched it multiple times and it never gets old. At number 3 we have Blind Spotting. And Blind Spotting is a truly more than underrated, I'd say underseen film, but for my money this is the most socially relevant film of 2018. A film that is about racism, that is about identity, but it tackles it with true passion and made by someone who truly understands what's wrong with our messed up society. It has 2 fantastic lead performances, it is very short, very fun, it has one of the most hilarious flashback scenes I've seen all the year, but the most important thing is that it's a powerful and really important film, especially about also cultural appropriation that isn't often tackled in films. But I consider this, yeah, for my money, probably the most important film that I would say everyone should watch this year. At number 2, it's Lars von Trier's The House That Jack Built. I'm a sucker for von Trier, especially his more philosophical work, and this one is not only a look at art and life and what actually qualifies as art, what is the life of an artist, but it's especially, most importantly, Lars von Trier looking back at his entire body of work, at his entire life, and judging himself. And you get a sick and twisted character, the titular Jack, who is messed up beyond belief, but he believes himself to be a true artist, a true auteur. And each of the 5 kills that are the main incidents of the plot, they each represent also the director himself in what he's done with his entire career. And it's an incredibly fascinating film, darkly funny, incredibly disturbing, with probably the best ending sequence that I've seen in a film in forever. Truly spectacular stuff. I know that a lot of people are bothered by the violence, others just are annoyed by Lars von Trier's style and the constant dialogue between 2 characters who are analyzing metaphors and whatever. I love this shit, and I don't care. I've seen already this film 3 times, and I will see it even 3 more times. I find it to be a very dense film, very funny, very deep, very thought-provoking, very enjoyable. I love this film. But this film didn't get the number 1 spot, even though I was considering it, because the number 1 film of the year, for me, is Roma. Alfonso Cuarón's Roma. And this film, to me, because as I've said, it's my list, I don't care, this film is cinematic perfection to me. It's an impeccable film under every technical aspect. You've got terrific cinematography, long wide shots, with terrific choreography that's just very underrated by a lot of people, but the choreography in the background, the attention to detail, and the sound design, the sound mixing, how you're literally sucked into this world with all the sounds surrounding you. Some people are finding it overwhelming, and I did, but in the best way possible. It's a very immersive experience. It's a borderline VR experience. You just need the goggles and you're set. But It's also a very personal story to Cuarón. And again, one of those stories that is so personal that it becomes easy to relate to. Some people want this to be more... I don't even know what. Some people are complaining about this film. I don't care. I found it to be incredibly moving, really powerful. At the end, I was crying like a little baby, and I loved every second of it. Probably too artsy-fartsy to some people, probably too slow, probably too unengaging, I don't know, but I don't care, because every time I watch Alfonso Cuarón's Roma, I get sucked into these people's lives, I get sucked into these characters' motivations, into their lives, and it's an incredibly realistic film. So if you want cinematic catharsis that some of the other films on this list give you, especially Blind Spotting, this one isn't like that. This one is a borderline biography about about Cuarón's actual maid, and I love this film. Truly loved it, and I hope you guys watch it as well. But still, what are your thoughts on this list? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? There is no right or wrong. Let's just say this once again. There is no right or wrong. It's a personal list, and I'm really interested to see if you enjoy some of these films and if you have different lists. So please share your favorite films of the year in the comments below. And guys, here we are. 2019 is in full effect. I'm hoping to do more reviews, more analysis. I don't know what will happen, but still, fingers crossed for another great year. But still, guys, thanks as always for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.